How long do you think we're going to see the prices remain high?
Well, I suppose everything when it comes to the price of gasoline is temporary, as it was back in 2022 as well. Now, oil prices have recently taken a bit of a break. That could stifle the further increases in the national average at some point here in the next 3 to 4 days before we see what the next chapter looks like. Obviously, still a lot of action happening in the Middle East. And while oil prices may have declined today, it's not impossible, especially with new news, that oil prices may eventually go back up, especially since the Strait of Hormuz is still essentially blocked and ships still are not really transiting the strait. That still weighs on pressure for gasoline prices to rise. In addition, we still have the seasonal elements that
Right.
are likely to push prices up in the weeks ahead.
Yeah, when you talk about the Strait of Hormuz, this tiny, narrow waterway that's right off the coast of Iran, Iran is now reportedly laying mines there. That's why there's no traffic. 20% of the world's oil normally passes through this narrow strait. You call this mine laying a, quote, major escalation and nightmare, end quote. Tell me why.
Well, absolutely. Now, in addition to risking life and limb with drone attacks, now there's another element of uncertainty, something indirect that is not easily spotted by commercial vessels. That would be hugely problematic. Now, confidence is completely upended because of the unknown, where these mines may be if they are indeed laid. It's just another area of uncertainty and another reason why ships would likely stay anchored instead of taking the risk.
President Trump has floated the idea of having the U.S. Navy escort tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. Could that actually work? You say that would actually make the tankers more of a target.
Well, especially in light of the fact that Iran has made no a secret that it would go after U.S. and Israeli vessels in the Strait of Hormuz, it certainly could boost the risk. In addition, having a hand-holding event through the Strait of Hormuz still does not guarantee security. There still could be drone attacks and other issues, especially if mines are being laid, that could put such efforts at risk. And so, as long as there is very little confidence in being able to transit the Strait of Hormuz, we're going to continue to see oil prices impacted in a significant way. And especially the longer this goes on, we've already been seeing over 100 million barrels of oil that have been stifled through this area over the last 8 days or so.
Where are all these tankers sitting right now?
Well, many of them are in the Persian Gulf or on the opposite side of the strait waiting to transit through. There are hundreds of tankers now waiting, many of them chemical and oil tankers. And keep in mind, it's not just oil being impacted, but the ability for refineries in the Persian Gulf to export products as well. And that is putting upward pressure on virtually everything derived from crude oil.
And I can't imagine they can all just sit there floating in the Persian Gulf forever.
Well, certainly there's a sizable cost to be paid. These vessels now fetching six-figure incomes on a daily basis to simply park there. And while we wait,
Wow.
many of these freighters cannot be used in other instances. So to your point now, there's a shortage of capacity because so many of these freighters are tied up in the Strait or in the Persian Gulf.
I want to ask you about something that happened today. The energy secretary in the Trump administration this morning posted on social media that the U.S. Navy had successfully escorted an oil tanker through the Strait of Hormuz. This would have been the first time this ever happened. Moments later, his post vanished. The White House this afternoon walked it back, saying the post was a mistake, that this never happened. But just in the few moments that it was up, it sent the oil and stock markets wildly gyrating.
Yeah, absolutely. Just highlighting the uncertainty of what could happen next. Obviously, that would be a major game changer to see the Navy actually escorting vessels through the strait. Not only is there not enough military power to do that with every vessel, but it certainly could pave the way for a future which sees eventually transit reoccurring through the strait. So there's a lot of details here. It could go back and forth, and ultimately there's still a significant amount of risk going through the strait. And again, it would take certainly a lot of military power, and including France now considering sending vessels,
Right.
military assets into the Strait of Hormuz to do the exact same thing.
And by the way, that too has an expense. That too cannot continue forever.
Yeah, exactly right. The amount of money essentially in the Strait of Hormuz, essentially for military assets, certainly fetching a premium here. So a lot of military assets could be tied up simply by escorts.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.